9 years to the day after 1989 dropped, Taylor Swift has released her Taylor's version of the same record in her quest to reclaim her music after a messy masters dispute that kicked off 4 years ago. This particular recording is arguably the most anticipated re-recording, the original having been her most commercially successful and arguably most iconic record. 1989 Taylor's version had been teased the longest, with Wildest Dreams having been used in March 2021 for the trailer of Spirit Untamed, later dropping in September when the bridge became a viral TikTok trend. This Love dropped in May 2022 after being used in a trailer for The Summer I Turned Pretty. Later that summer, Bad Blood was used in the DC Super Pets film. But it wasn't until the August 9th LA show, which I attended myself, where she properly announced the album and performed New Romantics as a surprise song. Now that it's out, does it do the beloved original justice? Long story short, for the most part, I think it does. This video will focus more on the changes on the originals and the vault tracks, so if you want a proper 1989 recap and lyrical deep dive, check out my other 1989 video essay. The production changes. 1989 was actually the one that I was most scared of, considering its intricate original production. Taylor was able to get back a lot of the producers, Ryan Tedder, Imogen Heap, and of course her go-to producer Jack Antonoff, but one important producer did not return. Max Martin, who had been a primary producer of 1989, did not return for Taylor's version. His absence was felt on a few tracks when he didn't return for Red TV, particularly We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. But where he was only on 3 of Red's original tracks, Martin produced 9 of the original 16 1989 tracks. Also noteworthy is, unlike Red TV, none of the vault tracks are credited to him. Every vault track is an Antonoff production, with one co-production by Patrick Berger. In Martin's place is Swift herself and Christopher Rowe, who had done a lot of the production on the TVs that we've gotten now. I think they both did a wonderful job capturing the overall spirit and atmosphere of the originals, with slight changes that add a bit of context to the tracks. Welcome to New York feels so much fuller. The synth in the opening has an added texture to it. The chorus feels more enveloping because of the modified synth, while the drum sequence hits a little softer to give the vocals more space. I noticed stronger vocal layering overall as well. The bridge in particular feels very new. The final ad-libs at the end showcase Swift's mature voicing. Blank Space was the track that I was most scared for. Up until New Money Suit and Tie, it seems pretty identical, but then the drum hits start, and it starts to feel a bit more spaced out, almost like tapping. Martin's snare drum is so unique and hard to recapture, but I do like that the chorus adds this dark pulsating synth that adds more of an 80s flavor. The pen click sounds a little bit different, but that's fine. The second chorus is immaculate, but sang even more tongue-in-cheek. You can actually hear her smile when she says, "Darling, I'm a nightmare dressed like a daydream." The bridge emphasizes the harmonies much better, and the ad-libs that we love in the final chorus are preserved so well. Style's definitely a controversial one because the original is such a classic. The opening guitar riff sounds more stylized, pun intended, more 80s, but less pronounced, almost like a live version. But the chorus synth sequencing is a tad bit off. In the original, it almost overpowers Taylor to showcase how little control she has in the relationship. Here, Swift's vocals overpower the synth, so it might be a slight nod to how she's older. I felt like the Some Other Girl line felt a bit muted compared to the original. The final Take Me Homes feel just as powerful as the original though, so this one's gonna have to grow on me. Out of the Woods, Taylor's version is the superior version. Antonoff and Swift basically recreate the original to perfect fidelity, but with added, richer detailing and a more optimistic, ethereal light to it. Rather than feeling anxious, it feels celebratory in the best way. Swift's harmony work has to be praised yet again, and the bridge remains one of her best. All You Had to Do Was Stay is another Taylor's version that I think improves on the original. Swift's confidence shines through, especially in the last half of the song. Rowe and her did a really good job reconfiguring the original production to feel more dynamic. The change in the jangling synths in the chorus work really well. It's hypnotic, it's brighter, it's airier, it's freer. Shake It Off is probably one of my favorite restorations. The reverb on the drums and the spatial audio mix really let you hear hidden synth work in the chorus. The backing vocals feel pronounced with a nice crisp echo, like the little shake it offs in the chorus tickle the ear. That final chorus with the lush harmonies really does add a heavenly feel to the track that wasn't there before. The hits keep coming coming with I Wish You Would, a personal favorite of mine which stays mostly the same aside from some tweaks. There's more life to the iconic guitar riff and a softer delivery to the track that makes it feel more romantic and affectionate. Most Taylor's versions have this wistful quality to them, and here it really adds to the track. The wavering vocal warbling to mimic the synths that Taylor does at the end improves the original. I think it's perfection. Bad Blood is where it gets a bit murkier. I think the delivery of the track is a little off. It doesn't feel so vindictive or angry so much as it feels disappointed. The emphasis on the drum snares, it feels more like taps than the original stomps. I do like the added echoed ghost in the bridge, but this was one of the more disappointing re-recordings. However, the Kendrick Lamar remix that she released at the last minute, that's perfection. Kendrick doesn't miss a single beat, he kills it, as does the production, which I felt was extremely faithful in ways the solo version just was not. Taylor absolutely ate this up. You forgive, you forget, but you never let it go still slaps. Wildest Dreams I talked briefly about in an old video, but overall is a faithful rendition with overall better vocals, particularly that beautiful ad-lib at the end. How You Get the Girl is a vast improvement over the original. It's just crisper and better than the original version. The delivery is just so much warmer on here. The wistful narrator energy that she has a knowing, wiser feel to the song. The chorus feels so much fuller here too. I really like the crowded cacophony to contrast the instructive verses. The contrast between the acoustic elements and the electronic sound is far more pronounced. That final chorus gets me every time. This Love is a near perfect one-to-one recreation. Next. I Know Places is immaculately recreated. Swift's robust vocals make the song a bit more believable at the cost of the vulnerability that was there on the original version. I like how pronounced the bass line is on this version. Her iconic growl on the second pre-chorus is perfectly recaptured with vigor. The eyes that start and end the track have a more electronic sound to them. I was so happy that she got Imogen Heap back for Clean. This version of the song still has the weight of the original, but it is shifted to a more optimistic and brighter energy. You can really feel the distance that she's had from the original recording. It's no longer about the 1989 relationship. Instead, it's about the 9 years since 1989, the ups, the downs, and the freedom that she now has as a person and an artist. I actually couldn't help but tear up listening to this because I thought about myself and my journey, as well as hers. Wonderland's another improved song for me. I was never really a fan of it, but I do get the song better now that it has a cleaner production, allowing me to appreciate the lyrics and the way that Taylor enunciates lines. The improvement on her voicing is so evident. You Are in Love, like the previous Antonov tracks, is just a victory lap. This has everything the original version has, but with more. There's an added texture to the instrumental, to the strings, to the harmonies that made me fall in love with this track in the first place, and the way that she sings yous and trues, just amazing. The spatial audio mixing in particular makes you feel like you're at a concert. And last but not least, New Romantics gets a reshuffle. This one's a bit tricky for me to review because the original was perfect. I felt like this was more cohesive to the 80s sound, but the mixing in the chorus made me recognize synths in the original that were more muted and subtle. Here, they sound visible and overpowering and distracting. Another point I have against it is that the sounds a bit off. So I was a little disappointed that it closed out on more of a whimper than a bang. I still really love New Romantics. The track itself is gorgeous, but the vocal mixing was questionable. 13 out of 16 being nearly identical or better in some respects is very admirable. I'd say next to Speak Now TV, this might actually be my favorite Taylor's version record so far. I'm cautiously optimistic about Reputation now. Okay, it's time to talk about the vault tracks. The vault tracks in general are all Antonov productions that are more mid-tempo and reflective than what we thought we would end up with. I was initially disappointed until I realized these tracks really evoke the 1980s sound that Taylor was really aiming for with this record. Some of the choruses on here are just as catchy and magical as the standard tracks, but I see why they were cut. Slut is the current single for good reason. It's a distinct sounding mid-tempo track that reminded me of False God at first, but becomes this almost indie sounding track. The way that it blooms into the chorus really throws you off. There's a lot of recurring imagery. The love thorning reminded me of Blank Space. Love to Think That You'll Forget touches on Wildest Dreams themes. The chorus being a pointed criticism over how she was judged for being a serial dater works very well. The allusions to being drunk in love speak to her later works, comparing love to alcoholic intoxication. Patrick Berger's co-production really gives us a mysterious, sultry vibe. Say Don't Go was co-written with Diane Warren, who herself was a huge hit maker in the 80s. One of the biggest hits in 1989 itself, If I Could Turn Back Time by Cher, was written by her. This track's the longest track and it adheres most to the traditional songwriting structure with a refrain that leads to a pre-chorus and a chorus along with a chanty post-chorus. I noticed a few ties to later songs that she'd do, Shot in the Dark and Striking a Match, Come Up Again and Getaway Car. See the Cards You Won't Show reminded me of Foolish One and Cornelia Street. Say Don't Go itself ties back to All You Had to Do Was Stay, which makes me think that this could have been a possible track 5 candidate. It's one of my favorite vault tracks so far. It's very vintage in the best way possible. Now That We Don't Talk is the shortest track. It feels very Bleachers. You can really hear Jack's influence, even his backing vocals. I just couldn't help but notice the way that she sings Now That We Don't Talk sounds like Hell No in headphones. This is a obscure Hailee Steinfeld deep cut that nobody knows. But this track grew on me. The way that her vocals curve up when she sings I Called My Mom is really fun. Additionally, I like how specific this track is. You know exactly who she's singing about, but the details add a diaristic feel. Suburban Legends feels like a 1989 flavored mix of Mastermind melodically, and You're On Your Own Kid with the imagery. I even got grace notes of Question on this track. It's very classic Swift and Off. Swift unravels the sweeping romance that's going to ruin her life because it's almost destined in the stars. The contrast between something lame like Suburbs and something epic like Legends is a neat irony that grounds the song. I felt like the outro itself almost feels like a prologue to themes and ideas in Midnights. The clock imagery, the broke my own heart because you were polite to do it reminded me of Midnight Rain. It's a standout for me. The closer, Is It Over Now, is perfect. It's the shimmering synthy thesis statement that speaks to the whole she lost him but she found herself motif behind the record. The verses are pointed references to the muse of 1989, Harry Styles. The second verse in particular spells it out with the blue dress on the boat picture. The pre-chorus hints at infidelity before the chorus pokes around with dream imagery asking if it's over. The is it part really reminded me of Delicate's Isn't It? I love the bridge so much. The way that she sings reminded me of Cruel Summer's quick cadence. The line about thinking about jumping off tall somethings really gagged me. I adored the way that she sings But No. This one's a gem. The sparkling outro synths really had me smiling the whole time. The vault tracks confirmed to me that Midnights is 1989's proper successor. You can really see the DNA links between these two eras and how Swift and Antonoff have improved over the years. It's truly remarkable and it makes me appreciate Midnights a smidge more. But to answer my question at the top of the video in detail, 1989's Taylor's version, it doesn't quite do everything perfectly. There were a few songs I wish had not had changes. That said, the ones that improved really soared. I ended up appreciating a few tracks that I did not like the first go around, and the vault tracks after listening to them, they really do add to the mythology of the era. I'm glad to award 1989 TV a 9.8 rating, just 0.2 shy of the original's 10. It's extremely close and I think with time I might come to fully embrace it. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for checking out this video about the Taylor's version of 1989. This album in particular was very important to me, like making that original video essay and seeing it just smash really was amazing. I want to shout out my members and my subscribers, and I do want to ask the question, what did you like that changed? What didn't you like that changed? And how do you felt about the Taylor's version that we got so far? Oh, and a quick side note, Sweeter Than Fiction, Taylor's version is adorable. That's all I have to say about that. And that's a wrap. I'll see you next video. Okay, promise I'll go this time. I just wanted to hit 1313.